Don't litter in the woods, because if you do, a jobber wrestler in a Viking costume will try to kill you by spreading raspberry jam all over your face, wandering around yelling, "Ugh!" while Bart the bear just wanders aimlessly, wondering how the fuck he landed in this particular project when a decade later he would be in The Edge with Sir Anthony Hopkins and one of the Baldwins. I think it's Alec. I forgot which. I don't really fucking care. I'm John Renton with the retro review of Berserker from 1987. An alleged slasher horror movie that involves 6 idiots going into the woods in Utah. Why you would go into the woods, especially in Utah, to go to a cabin, I have no goddamn idea. They encounter a lot of fog that dissipates and vanishes depending on the shot. It's also lit basically with a spelunker's helmet, and also seems to feature a budget that is about, $50, plus maybe like some gum that you find in some baseball cards. This movie is terrible. Not that I expected much from the goddamn poster, but the description. 6 idiots, 6 people, go to this cabin, and they encounter a resurrected Viking. Okay, that sounds fun. The resurrected Viking doesn't really show up for a while. There's also 10 people credited in the cast, and also Bart the bear. So 10 people and a bear. Jesus Christ, territorial wrestling promotions had more people on the goddamn card even back in the 40s. This was apparently written and directed by Jefferson Richard, and was written by 2 other people. And features one guy that was in Iced. I retro-reviewed that. You can check that out if you want. And yeah, we have some really, really bad audio to the point that there is a character named Pappy. I'm not kidding. Pappy, starring a smear campaign, as it were. George Buckflower, who, if it was his regular voice and he needed subtitles for the subtitles, and if it wasn't his regular voice, he should have picked another accent, because good goddamn Christ, the lore in this movie was ridiculous. Basically, we open in the 10th century. Well, that narrows it down. We see the little end of a Viking ship, and we see somebody stand up, while we see the credits and shots of either stuffed and mounted bears or bears that essentially are just being prodded to be reactionary on camera. I seriously would like to know who the audience was for this, because even in the 80s, where you could do a lot of coke and vote for Ronald Reagan, and anybody that gets that reference, I love you guys. But honestly, this is impressive that they were able to basically just find 6 morons to wander in the woods for a good 60% of the movie. And also, horrible acting. Terrible line reading. Not that I expected either to be good in a movie called Berserker, but man, oh man, this is on Tubi if you want to try and endure this shit. I had never heard of it, so I decided, 80s slasher tripe on Tubi. Don't mind if I do. God, I wish I hadn't. There's an old couple that's by the way, completely spoiling this thing, even if you haven't seen it, because 1, the movie came out in 87, 2, retro reviews, I spoil everything I can remember. An old couple is there, and then the bear attacks them, I think, but it looks like they just took a squirt bottle and squirted blood on the old lady's face, while the old man got attacked. And then we see people smashing into cramming into a truck. Sure, sit in the back with a 4-wheeler when the 4-wheeler could just move around. It's fine. The terrible audio and acting is already paramount. And then for about a good, I would say, solid 10 minutes, we get either driving, we get, terrible line reading in this car, or we get a sheriff talking to these characters. And one character in particular tries to be very, very nice. Says that, hey, we read this book. We're going to these woods. We're going to this area. And the sheriff's a little bit taken aback by it. Well, they end up getting to the woodsy area, but it turns out this character, Josh, no, not the Josh from Blair Witch Project, has been staying there for a while, but Pappy, this character, does not remember him. Actually, he's putting on a front because Josh is kind of a full-on idiot and an entitled little douchebag with a stupid haircut. And I'm sure that most of the cast of this is dead. If they're not, sorry, but I don't care. This movie's terrible. He ends up, basically pissing him off Well, you can't stay at the sergeant's place. You can stay at the miller's place. By the way, this campground seems to have 2 places. So, not exactly a moneymaker. But nevertheless, a couple of the other groups we talk them, including Mike Stone, who was the character in Ice, Joseph Allen Johnson, which sounds like a name way too snooty to be involved in this. Actually, it sounds like a CPA. And also there's a character, Larry, who's kind of the nerd of the group. In fact, everybody in this group looks like nerds. So, they end up going to this one particular place, the miller's place. They actually go to the sergeant's place. He tells them not to litter or else. The sheriff had said don't litter. And they end up going to this place and they party and drink and they talk around the campfire about berserkers, being like, Viking warriors who consumed human flesh and have gone absolutely insane or are only used for raids and then locked and chained in the goddamn bowels of the ship. Or the bowels of the ship. And by the way, they only possess the kin that is in their bloodline. I'm going to tell you right now that if you can't figure out who the hell this person is that's doing all the attacks, especially considering we don't see this character all that often after a certain while, then you have problems. The bear just wanders around. Poor Bart the bear. Bart the bear, by the way, I believe lived about 23 years, died in 2000. Bless Bart the bear. May he rest in grisly peace. Josh goes over memories of his dad. His dad was great at the cabin and not great everywhere else. 6 years ago, a girl got mauled, apparently. Now, by the way, this is not too far after this couple got killed. 35 minutes in, we've had no attacks besides what we had in the beginning. And Pappy and the sheriff, whose name I forgot to write down, I don't fucking care, had a goofy haircut and seemed like he was falling asleep like every viewer was that watched Berserker, all 5 people that saw this in theaters. And Pappy basically tells him, don't worry about this, it's only a book. That stuff that he was talking about, only a book, it's not real. Because Pappy wasn't here for a while, but then suddenly things were happening after Pappy showed up. Strange things have been happening, but it's been quiet for a while. Pappy's doing the killing, by the way, just in case you didn't get that beating you over the head thing. So, essentially, the blonde, I forgot her name, Kelly. I think Kelly was the name of one of the people. She ends up trying to go to pop a squat in the woods and wanders around. And by the way, this is how bad the lighting is in this. You can barely tell who's who. You can barely tell what's on film. And also, they can only use a little bit of land, so they're clearly wandering around within shot of the goddamn cabin. That's why they had to use all the fog. And I think the dry ice might have actually taken up half the meager budget. They eventually run into the old man corpse that's still there, and the old lady corpse is still there. The bear ends up just... The bear's just wandering around, and then we do see the Berserker's arm. He's in bear skins, a bear mask, and stuff like that, and it's actually somebody else, by the way, that plays the Berserker, so actually I take that back, it's 11 people, but 11 people and a bear. But he attacks by literally, I swear to God, he's just rubbing jam with a little bit of corn syrup on their faces. Like, it does not look like he's attacking them at all. It is astonishing. Horror at Party Beach did a better scene than that. And that one was just literally the creature rubbing whatever goo it was on the girl's stomach. So, Pappy goes to look for him, but suddenly he ends up dying. Actually, he ends up disappearing. There's one guy, Larry, the nerdy guy that gets his leg hurt somehow. Josh ends up getting attacked at one point. We have all this stupid bullshit going on. So we have people that are dead. One guy injures his leg. Josh is being foolish by trying to attack the Berserker instead of running, because it's not like this character is necessarily fast, but they're all idiots. And then the bear shows up, and the bear is attacking him, and it seems like the bear is going to die. Then it seems like Pappy Viking is going to die. Da-da-da-da-da. But that doesn't end up happening. The Viking runs off. And then it seems like the bear was going to attack Larry. And then we get to daytime. The sheriff has shown up at this point. Josh is alive. I think he was breathing, but he wasn't picked up at any point. Whatever, it's fine. So the Berserker doesn't like light, and then the sheriff shoots him, and then the stuff fades, and it's Pappy, because he was attached to the bloodline, I guess. And then, by the way, we see literally at the end, just before the credits go, the eyes open. So, oh my God, he's alive despite being shot in the chest. Just, what was this? What was this, and for what reason does this exist? Berserker is terrible. It is 1,000% terrible, and everybody involved in funding this should be investigated for crimes against filmmaking. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlin, and until we meet again, happy trails to you.